To our top story, Premier Craig Cannonier's office has responded to criticism by two senior civil servants that his figures were not accurate with respect to the number of unemployed and the number of those leaving the island due to the recession. Trott has more.
To back up the Premier's figure of 7,000 people who have since departed our shores, a government spokesperson citing figures from the Department of Immigration that more than 7,800 work permit holders left Bermuda between 2008 and this year. They note this figure does not include Bermudians. As for those left unemployed, the Premier had estimated the figure to be around 5,000. And the spokesperson going on to give us figures from the Department of Statistics website that show the Bermuda workforce dropped by 4,770 people between 2008 and 2012. However, when ZBM News crunched the numbers provided to us, they did not add up. Here's why. The statistics given to us show that more than 7,800 work permit holders left Bermuda over the past 5 years. Then the same stats given to us show that there was more than 10,000 guest workers in Bermuda in 2008. Then in 2012, the stats given to us say there were more than 7,500 guest workers. However, when calculated, the figures actually show that more than 2,800 guest workers had left Bermuda by last year, leaving the reader to assume that the other 4,944 foreign workers left Bermuda this year alone. Elsewhere, as for the Premier's statement that government had to seek emergency loans on Wall Street when the OBA took power to keep the country afloat, another government spokesperson admitting an error in this information and pointing out to our newsroom that government had to borrow the money from local banks and not from Wall Street as the Premier originally stated. Tari, Trott reporting for ZBM News 9.
However, Shadow Finance Minister David Byrd finding it unacceptable that the Premier's office was wrong on the Wall Street claim.
Last week, the Premier made the extraordinary statement that Bermuda was on the verge of bankruptcy and had to take out emergency loans on Wall Street to keep the government afloat. Now today, we learn that statement was a mere story that was made up and was never true to begin with. Last week, the Minister of Finance, when lecturing the media, said, and I quote, "It is not acceptable to undermine the credibility of the Premier." The Minister then went on to say, and I quote, "If this economy is to be turned around, confidence in the government is a prerequisite, both locally and overseas." I agree with the Minister of Finance that we will not turn around our economy if the OBA continues to create fiction, invent statistics which lessen the confidence in our government. The press would not have to question the credibility of the Premier if the Premier and his consultants did not make up stories which were not true. So I plead with the One Bermuda Alliance today. Stop with the falsehoods, stop with the stories, stop with the spin, and get on with your work. The One Bermuda Alliance has been the government for 310 days, and while they make up stories, Bermudians continue to lose their jobs, Bermudians continue to see their wages cut, and Bermudians continue to see their cost of living increase. Every false story and the energy to cover it up is energy that could be better spent on growing our economy and putting our people back to work. So on behalf of the people of Pembroke West Central, I call on the Premier to focus on the people of this country instead of focusing on making up stories.